Hello and welcome to Transfermarkt TV. I'm Manu, he is Stefan Bienkowski, and today's big topic is, of course, Mo Salah. And the question, and I know Liverpool fans do not want to hear this, but Stefan, he is 32, 2 more years under contract. We're going to talk about how Liverpool are going to eventually replace Mo Salah, or going to try to anyways. But before we get to, and this seems like a silly question, because how important has Mo Salah been for this Liverpool side?
Yeah, he's been hugely important. As important as really any individual in any Premier League team this season. People often think of the Premier League. They think of maybe Erling Haaland scoring all the goals for Manchester City, or maybe Marcus Rashford scoring all the goals for Man United. And obviously, we've talked about Arsenal and their struggle for goals recently, but when you look at his Liverpool team, their reliance on Mo Salah is really quite startling. So far this season, he scored 22 goals and assists, so goal contributions rather than scored. And that actually works out about 51% of his team's total goals in the league this year, which, is worrying on its own to begin with. But when we actually look at that figure over the course of the last 5 seasons, it shows that not only is it alarming, but it's actually getting higher. Last season, it was 41%. The season before that, it was 39%. Season before that, it was about more or less the same, 40%. And then in 2019-20, it was 34%, which kind of goes to show that, Liverpool are obviously in the middle of this big rebuild. We've seen them spend a lot of money on wide players. We've seen them spend a lot of money on midfielders. And there's a lot of talk, obviously, about rejigging that defence. They're talking about fullbacks and central defenders and the likes. But no matter what has changed the last 2 or 3 years, it feels as though Mohamed Salah's role in the team has only gotten more and more important, to the extent that he's now more or less either scoring or creating around half the goals that are scored in the Premier League this season.
Yeah, when I look at Mo Salah and his role at Liverpool, it kind of reminds me of Lionel Messi at Barcelona, right? He's that forward that does everything for them, and of course, we're old enough to remember the attacking trio with Sadio Mane and Roberto Firmino. Those two are now gone. He's still there, and it seems like the next generation of Liverpool is being built around him as well, and that's really, really fascinating, because we got a little bit maybe of a glimpse in their 4-0 win against Bournemouth, where Salah wasn't in the squad. Walk us through there, like, what did you see there, and how do you think this could be maybe a signal for the future? I know we're still some time away of Liverpool having to replace Salah, but what can we maybe gauge from that match and how the future might look like?
Yeah, I mean, to be fair to Liverpool, there's no argument that they have kind of begun this process of bolstering their attack. Off the top of my head, I think they've spent about 220 million euros on forwards in the last kind of 3 or 4 years, of all shapes and sizes, of course, not just direct Mohamed Salah replacements. And when you kind of go through that forward line, so basically the other 4 players, you got Gakpo, Darwin Núñez, Diogo Jota, and Diaz are the kind of 4 main players who Liverpool rely on when Salah isn't scoring or creating the goals. And, they all kind of have varying degrees of uses to Liverpool. So, for example, if we kind of look at their goals per 90 and compare them to Salah's, the likes of Gakpo, who's got 0.39 goals per 90 in the Premier League. So this is total Premier League goals and appearances. Darwin Núñez is sitting on about 0.5, which is, of course, fine. And Diaz, who's obviously more of a winger, is 0.31. None of these guys really come close to Salah's 0.68, which is really impressive number considering how much game time he's played in the Premier League for Liverpool. But as we can see, the only player who does come close is actually Diogo Jota, who averages about 0.63 goals per 90, and obviously he did that very recently as well. He's been a real bright spark in that attack, and perhaps one of the most consistent players, which also kind of carries over when we include assists in that. Diaz kind of bumps up to 0.45 goals and assists per 90. Gakpo bumps up to 0.58. Núñez jumps quite considerably to 0.77 because he has actually proved to be quite a good creator of assists. since he's joined Liverpool. But again, it's Jota with 0.85 who comes closest to Salah, who's just under 1 goal or assist per 90 in the Premier League. Again, absolutely crazy numbers. So, looking at those numbers, you would think, okay, they've got Diogo Jota. He's a good few years younger than Salah. He's established himself since he moved from Wolves. Open and shut case, problem solved. The problem there is, though, the one player who does look like he could potentially step into Salah's shoes in the long term is also the player who picks up a lot of injuries. Jota has been fantastic, and he is consistently fantastic when he plays, but just to kind of give you a kind of brief glimpse of his injury concerns, so far this season he's missed 8 games. Last season he missed 29 games for club and country through injury. Season before that was 4. Year before that it was 23. And then, of course, after that, you'd go back to his time at Wolves. So he has missed a lot of game time for Liverpool since he joined the club. So much so that it might be quite hard for someone like Jurgen Klopp to kind of make long-term plans and say, right, Diogo Jota's our new talisman, because as good as he is on the pitch when he's fit and ready, so far of his Liverpool career, he's proven that you can't really rely on him. I think actually, when I checked the numbers, he's missed on average about 10 Premier League games per season, which is obviously huge, and far more than someone like Salah has. So that's the kind of catch-22 that Liverpool are in right now. The players who can stay fit don't score or create as many goals as Salah. The one player who possibly can struggles with injury, and it'll be interesting to see how Liverpool deal with that in the next couple of years.
Yeah, no, it's a really interesting question, right? And I guess one that Liverpool fans slowly but surely will have to come to terms with as Mo Salah ages. Although you have to say, if he does stay fit, I know he's injured right now as we record this. He's with Egypt in the Africa Cup, right? But at some point, age will catch up. The question is when, not if. But I guess as long as he is in the form that he is on right now, and he has been unbelievable in the Premier League this season, Liverpool fans can always be hopeful that they are one of the title contenders. So they will try to punt this down as long as possible. And we'll have to see how Jurgen Klopp in Liverpool will solve this conundrum eventually. Stefan, this has been great. Of course, you can follow Liverpool and their endeavors in the Premier League. You can check out the latest transfer rumors, whether they may be already looking at a potential replacement or not in the rumor mill. You can discuss this and other topics as well in the rumor mill. So check that out, whether that's on .us, .co.uk or .com, whichever platform you prefer. We'll be back soon with more content. Until then, cheers and bye-bye.